That's right. Back at it again. Full custom hot dog here. We're doing another Blu-ray review. That's right. It feels like my first one in a while. We're going to be talking about Grandmother's House from 1988, directed by Peter Rader. This recently got somewhat recently anyway, got a release from Vinegar Syndrome. And I picked it up in that whole unboxing video. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out if you just want to see somebody open a box with stuff inside. I don't know. Maybe you do. I'm not going to judge you. I recorded it. Who am I to judge, you know? Anyway, let's talk about this release. Very solid, of course, coming from Vinegar Syndrome. I could buy almost any movie from Vinegar Syndrome and I want to say probably be happy. I'll at least be happy with the quality, maybe not the movie. Every time I want to say I've loved every one of Vinegar Syndrome releases, I think back to how much I didn't like Liquid Sky. And I feel like the only one sometimes. It's a lonely world out there for a weenie who doesn't like Russian art house films. Grandmother's House, newly restored in 4K from its original camera negative. Looking good, sounding good, probably the best this film will ever look. As always is the case, they just do phenomenal work. We know that already. We've got interviews, of course. We've got one with Brink Stevens, who plays the mysterious woman, which we'll talk about in a little bit, of course. An interview with Peter Rader, the director. Now, Peter is notable for one other film besides this. He's done a couple other movies, but he wrote Waterworld, which he initially pitched to Corman, and Corman said, I'm not going to make that movie. That's probably going to cost at least $1 million. And then, of course, it went down as being one of the biggest box office flops, and I think at the time was the most expensive movie ever produced. And he directed this movie, which I think he actually did a pretty solid job as a directorial effort here. You've also got an interview with Peter Jensen, who wrote this film and was also the cinematographer, a making-of featurette, which is not just a making-of, but it has an original short concept film, which he kind of used to get some funds going on. And one thing to note on that as well is I kind of like the look of that concept film a little bit better than what we got in the final product here, but maybe that's just me. You've got your the Still Gallery original trailer, all that stuff, reversible cover artwork, which the cover, I think, from the VHS is the one with the grandma knitting or something. Don't like that one. Not a fan. Also, it makes the film misleading in a way. You've got this grandmother it's called Grandma's House if you use that cover, by the way. And she's kind of knitting with what looks like knives or something. And it's sinister, and you're going to think, hey, I'm walking into a killer grandma movie. And you know what? You're not. It's not a killer grandma. Well, it sort of is technically-ish, but not. It's not. But it kind of wants you to think sometimes. Anyway, that's a solid release from Vinegar Syndrome. However, no commentary, so I got to ding you a little bit. So it's an A-, which isn't bad, of course, but I want my commentaries, damn it. I love listening to what the director has to say. It's ghetto film school, and that's what I like about it. I like to learn about the process, especially with these kind of movies. The obstacles they ran into, all that stuff. They do talk about some of that in the interviews, but overall, it's fine. It's a good release. So let's talk about this movie now. IMDb, tell us what this is about.
After the death of their beloved father, two teens go to their grandmother's house in California and begin to suspect their grandparents of murder.
That is pretty much it. Every once in a while, IMDb gets it right, it feels like, with some of these. And this is one, these kids, their father just passed away. They go to live at this grandmother's house with the grandpas there too, of course. And they start to see some things that are making them think that grandma and grandpa are up to something sinister. Meanwhile, they do see this mysterious woman who is almost following them. And she definitely seems out of it. She seems kind of crazy. I don't want to ruin it for you. I don't like to do spoilers in this because I'm going to assume you're blind buying some of these as I am, and if you're not, then you might have seen these already. But overall, it's a pretty solid plot with kind of a wacky end. Gets pretty wild towards the end of it, surprisingly. You've got a solid cast here, as I always tend to say, but this film is no exception. Eric Foster playing the lead young boy, who I'm kind of surprised isn't still acting today because I thought he's really good. Every time I see a young child actor who's really good, I'm always very surprised that they're not still acting. You've got Kim Valentine playing his sister, who has been in a couple other things, Family Matters a little bit, and had a bit part in The Legend of Billie Jean. She's pretty good as well. You've also got Len Lesser, who is probably better known as playing
Uncle Leo
from Seinfeld. And I had no clue he had been acting in Hollywood for so long, but it makes sense when you see older guys playing stuff from around this time period. You know, they've probably been acting for a long time, and he's no exception. Brink Stevens playing the mysterious woman who's been in a ton of stuff. Sorority Babes and Slimeball Bowl-orama, which if you watched Joe Bob's Return to the Drive-In, you know, on Shudder, that film played. Quite a few notable B flicks here. And they initially didn't want to give her the part because they thought she was too young. But every time she came back to audition, she just kept making her hair grayer and grayer. And you could tell she kind of has fun with it. She's actually really solid. So surprising, I guess, given, you know, the other stuff that she's been in. So it's a pretty solid flick all around, I'd say. There's really not a whole lot to dive into. But it's solid. I watched this a couple times. I don't know how often how eager I would be to check it out, but it's got enough mystery to kind of be an enjoyable film for a rainy day, maybe a cloudy afternoon, perhaps a warm evening with a blanket. Not too warm, then you don't need the blanket. But it's solid. It's got some twists. It keeps you guessing. Some great shots. Some solid action shots. If you're taking a look at the slideshow I've done here, these are all clips I've taken from the movie. So there's at least cool stuff to see. One thing I really like is the location of this film. It was filmed in Rosemead, which is a city I'm not too familiar with, but from the looks of it, looks kind of rural-ish, I guess. I like the property where they have this house where most of the filming was done, and it feels quite extensive. I think it was all one property. There's a scene where these kids explore this tunnel. They see like a shed, a farmhouse, and just seems like kind of this quote-unquote magical place to visit as a kid. And by that I just mean there's so much to explore, and that's kind of one of the funnest things about being a kid in a place you don't know is exploring. Here's this big house that's kind of creepy, but not over the top creepy. You've got all this property and groves, and who knows what you're going to find out there. I think that's super cool. This film nailed that aspect very well. So overall, it's quite solid. So if you find this streaming somewhere, definitely check it out. But definitely a solid release from Vinegar Syndrome. So definitely let me know what you think in the comments. I'm always eager to know if you've seen these already, because I feel like I haven't seen so many of them. But I guess that's something that's quickly being remedied. So like this video, comment, and you can follow me on Twitter. It's Full Custom Hot Dog without the last O because it's just too long for Twitter. And Tuesday nights, I'm doing a live show with my buddy Honest John where we talk about movies, all kinds of movie-related news, etc., commentary stuff. We do that live here on this channel, so if you want to follow along and hang out and shoot the BS with us, always welcome to. So, thank you for watching, and until next time.